But I mean the whole place. I mean,
I call bullshit on the fact that how do you distinguish them? Like, how do you draw a line?
You can tell there's a difference. It's like assigning it to a particular dialect.
Yeah, but even like Staten Island to New York, you kind of say New York accent. And then some people, if you have an Italian dad and you're from New York, or you have a Polish dad and you're from New York, like, is that too?
Yeah, or if you're from Long Island, you can totally tell that one.
I don't know. I just feel like
You'll know about it.
Yeah, or different. What if you're from New York and your dad's Italian, but all you do is watch like California podcasts? You know what I mean? Like, my point is that the slang or whatever so malleable.
We live in a place that has no accent, so
that's what people say.
Yeah,
but if we go somewhere,
I know. Do we sound like we have an accent other than not sounding like you?
I think you have an accent, slight accent.
Yeah, I don't know.
Where does it show up? What are the hallmarks?
It's the general, it's just the general American one, really, because so much of the, as you say, the pop culture that anybody else consumes is largely from the West Coast.
Yeah, LA.
So that just kind of seems like the American accent to a lot of people, I think.
I think that's why they say we don't have an accent, is just because we are America. But then if you ask someone, like if say we've never met, me and Munby, ladies and gentlemen, Ollie Munby, designer extraordinaire,
the man behind the bear,
the best beard in the game. He's had many conversations with many of us for many hours. But say you didn't, and I just said, "Hey, give me an American accent." I feel like you would do like a Texas thing.
No. I don't think so. I think if you say Texas to somebody, they'll try and do a Texas accent. But if you're just talking about like straight up American, it might come out somewhere around the West Coast, California. But it's
because Oregon sounds like us, Washington, and a lot of the other thing too is New York. It's native New York, because there's so many people that live in New York that talk. I don't want to say normal because that sounds offensive, but with no accent. Or Boston. You go to some places of Boston, you'll just hear a little twang, but you go to like Southie, and these guys, like
you can take a swim in a Southie accent.
Yeah.
When I was in Boston, you can really hear that twang. That is a proper, strong accent. It's a bit like in the UK. If you ever go up north, that's really when you're gonna hear it the most. I think in terms of like an accent that you wouldn't consider to be just like straight up British. I'm probably from the place where most people say I don't have an accent relative to the UK. A lot like you with America. Yeah, up north, and you're gonna feel it there.
Yeah, I in high school I did a play that I did The Importance of Being Earnest, which is a British play, obviously. And I basically absorbed the accent of an exchange teacher that we had in high school who was from Yorkshire. And so I sounded completely wrong for
the play.
For the play, but that was the easiest way for me to suck up some kind of accent.
I think I've done one too.
Crazy.
But you go like, is it Cockney?
Yeah.
I just went Cockney on it. Just because that's maybe what you hear. That's like what you would hear in an American movie of a dude doing an English accent.
Probably that kind of representation of it.
Yeah, it's just like so distinct.
If all the British movies you watch are My Fair Lady, that's...
I don't watch anything. I don't even know. I don't watch anything with an accent. I don't know where I could, but I can do accents okay.
You've seen
James Bond, maybe? What's his?
Yeah.
What's his considered?
Well, which one are you talking about?
Is very good point.
I was raised on Brosnan. Is that his name? Pierce.
He's Irish.
Oh, fuck you, Pierce. There goes my childhood. He was the one I was raised on.
Because James Bond's meant to be that kind of gent, that refined guy. So I think he's got a fairly well-spoken English accent.
And what's yours considered then? Is it by city, or is it like, are you not a gent? I thought we hired a gent, dude.
If you're if you're generally kind of from the southeast, you're just going to sound like the general accentless kind of way of talking. But yeah, there's definitely a kind of a difference with the James Bond, like upper class tuxedo wearing kind of guy.
And where does Shrek's accent come from?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's a Scottish accent.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But
and fat bastard.
Yeah. But
literally.
Yeah.
Mike Myers' dad was a Brit.
Oh, makes sense. Oh, because and whatchamacallit, Austin Powers.
Austin Powers, yeah.
Yeah, what's that? Is that the normal, just regular Brit accent?
Yeah, I mean, it's very like hammed up kind of British accent. Yeah. Sort of like, I think if Americans were to think about what a British accent is, that's what he's doing.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, exactly. I heard, and I have no idea if this is true, but I heard he did the entire voice track for Shrek in like a totally normal American accent. And then he was just playing around with his fat bastard Scottish voice. And then he started saying some of the Shrek lines. And the producer's like, no, that really works. And they went back and did the entire thing again in Scottish. I have no proof for that, but I heard it somewhere. And I'd like to think it's true.
It kind of makes sense. Like, why would you automatically think Shrek should be Scottish?
Yeah, I don't know. But speaking of, this is totally unrelated, but it is related to things that happen in movies that may or may not be true. I heard today something I'd never heard before, that Andy Serkis did not actually perform Gollum in Lord of the Rings. It's actually all animated.
Oh, instead of having the dots on them?
Yeah, it's not a performance capture. It's literally all animated.
Or maybe just the face. Sometimes they'll do just the face, I think, and not like the moving.
No, I hear none of it was motion capture.
Some of those behind the scenes, although I'm 32 and probably shouldn't be so in, but I mean, we'll get to it, Mr. Designer, and who helped us really build out the motif of all this and really change. I've always kind of been into this stuff, but you did help change my view on attention to details and stuff, as long as with Jim and the team to really step up our game. But I'm 32, I'm an adult, but I like to be fully immersed into... I'm a legal adult. I like to be fully immersed into my movies and stuff. So I've seen, like, Instagram will post, like, behind-the-scenes shots from Space Jam, and you see, like, two guys in green suits, and they're on each other's shoulders talking to the real Michael Jordan on set.
Yeah.
And, it just ruins my life. I don't ever want to see that kind of stuff. I want to think there's an alien there. And clearly it's a cartoon, but it just ruins the whole fucking thing.
Oh, it doesn't make any difference to me at all.
I hate it.
Those are things that don't make any difference to me at all. And I've talked about this before, but like any movie that I'm watching, I'm getting a good idea of where it's going early on.
Yeah.
And there are very few actual surprises to me. I seldom, because stories work particular ways. There's machinery around stories.
And we've talked about this before too. Like, you watch a movie almost as like a director. And although I like to think I'm a creative and I've been in plays and musicals and I understand all the story, I like to numb my body with popcorn and numb my face with the movie. I'm just there for the ride.
See, this is why I really want to see Tenet, because they say you can't understand what the hell's going on. And I need a little bit of that. I need a little bit of total confusion.
And Tenet is excellent.
You saw it?
Yeah, I just went to go see it in IMAX. So it's like the BFI one in London, so the largest screen in the UK. So it's just super disorientating in every aspect. It's so huge in front of your face, and then multiple timelines are happening at once in the same scene, and it's just crazy.
That sounds completely crazy.
Yeah, I think our movies are just opening up. So I assume you could see it somehow.
Like, not so much. I don't know if they're really open in the county. In our county so much. You can go a little bit to the next county or whatever and see some stuff. Are you guys closing back up over there? I'm seeing like maybe some of my British follows.
It's being done by region mostly. So I think you're seeing some more of the places in the north being hit quite badly, but generally down south and in London, they're just keeping things loose for the time being. But I think we're going to hit a second lockdown in maybe 2-3 weeks. Quick question. I'm getting some heavy delay. I can hear everything I'm saying back. Is there anything at your end you could potentially fix?
That's like the most... Remember the app that came out?
Question. I don't know.
It came out like, 3 years ago, and was like a mini trend that you like listened and talked, and then it just reverbed your voice in a certain way that you could no longer say words. Do you remember that?
No, that's absolutely mad.
Yeah, so like it's just a certain amount of delay or reverb that it like literally shuts off your brain and you just can't talk anymore.
Yeah, it's chopping up a little bit on our side, not that much. I don't know what's happening, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's a bit choppy. And
dude, what kind of city are you living in, dude? Where's the fiber?
No, I've got fiber right here.
Oh, do you? Oh,
yeah. Well,
Central London, yeah.
We're for whatever reason, like I forgot the adapter, or we might be running a little bit fast. But we're actually, I mean, this connection is
yeah, it's working.
1,000,
hopefully
1,000 down, 250 up. It should be decent. I mean,
it works okay. It might just be the app delay.
It could be my computer too, because it's starting to get a little long in the tooth. So anyway, we may not have a hell of a lot of time here that we get usable video. So let's talk about something. Why design?
School was architecture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Original thought, and then you gave up on that world, and now you're here.
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
Us.
So, coming out of secondary school, I thought I wanted to do architecture. That ended up being a horrible idea. Wouldn't really recommend it to anyone. But I found along the way, when laying out my portfolios for these buildings I was presenting, the typography and illustrations were really, really satisfying to me. So it just started to get me down the rabbit hole of graphic design in the first place. And then once I decided I was done with architecture, I thought, let me just give this thing a go. And 2 years later, run my own business with it, and it's going great. Absolutely love it.
What's so terrible about architecture? Do you think it was the process? And we've talked about this many times. It's a common theme of what I hope to do maybe later in life as a positive impact on this world is I just think education, especially in the Western world, I don't really know much of the Eastern or Southern Hemisphere, how it rocks. I just think it's so skewed because, and I don't know architecture in particular, but so many places like architecture school and then being an architect, let alone running your own business as an architect, you are so different. What your professor might teach you, you may like, or you may like the topic of architecture, but the day-to-day process of being an architect in a firm or whatever could be 180 degrees different. It could suck or it could be better, and that's for every job. Being a teacher, what you probably learn on how to be a teacher, and then actually teaching a classroom of 30 kids all day long is such a different process. Owning a gym, and we talk about this. Oh, man, I love lifting weights. Like, I'm going to open a gym. I get to hang out in the gym all day. Like, what could be better? Like, that's not the practice of running a gym. That's not the fun part. Like, you're cleaning toilets. You're doing a lot. Like, you're pushing books. Like, you're running a business. What was it about architecture that, like, turned you off so hard to recommend it to our billions of listeners?
Well, honestly, I think, as far as I know, this is an international kind of issue. It's just the work culture in architecture schools is absolutely crazy. Just the sheer number of hours. I think there was 1 week where I must have clocked north of like 75, 80 hours working. And it's just, if it's not something that you absolutely love at that point, it is going to break you. The school I was at had quite a few people drop out. It was quite a good school, produces some good work. But as you say yourself, I don't think it does tons to necessarily prepare yourself for the day-to-day of being an architect, building buildings, communicating with clients, those sorts of things, especially at the kind of more arty ones that I applied to. They tend to not really focus on the idea of actual livability up to a certain point. It's all very nice and theoretical and kind of buildings on clouds that would never stand up. And I think that's fine for a certain point. And the architecture degree is so long, so I can't attest to how good it is having dropped out halfway through. I think it does get a little bit more specific and practical, but I think they could do more to actually tool you up for the industry.
Yeah. I obviously never went to college, but I did we had a history through architecture class. I went to a weird art high school, and I loved it. And I thought I wanted to be an architect. And then you just do one Google, or you just think a little bit logically, or I did. And I'm like, but my teacher was cool because it was an art school, and I just built whatever I wanted, and we had to do these little cardboard things as our final project, and I love that. And he's like, now explain the business model, and he kind of did some more applicable things to it, like why would that stand in this economy, or like little stuff, and I loved it. But I thought, like, if I go down the path of architecture in America, I'm going to be building boxes. Like you just said, it's not going to be that cool shit that floats in the sky. It's not going to be pretty. It's like, I'm going to build functional boxes that make sure they have enough smoke alarms. Yeah. Like, that's going to be my new job, and that sounds terrible.
No, totally.
Well, architecture
really tapped into it there.
Architecture is kind of a long game too. I mean, it just doesn't pay off very quickly, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Financially?
Yeah. It's underpaid for about the first 20 years, and then you kind of get overpaid for the last 30.
Well, my point is that, like, if you're designing, a logo or whatever, there's a point at which it's going to be done, and it's probably going to be in the next few weeks.
Oh, yeah.
If you're designing a building, like, the drawing may take years to complete, and then actually building it might never happen.
Yeah.
Or if it does happen, it could be 5 years, 10 years, whatever,
I don't know if that's on like a personality or SAT or something, but I remember taking some kind of test in high school where they try to help you describe how you're fulfilled. And like one of the main categories is, do you like smaller jobs and seeing them finish like in a day or two?
Yeah.
And then we had this chat with our barber. He's like, that's what I didn't know it at the time, because I still don't really know. I just like to create, but I don't know what scale. But our barber's like, yeah, I know that was me, so I get to come in with a gross head, and then I fix a cool haircut every half hour. He's like, I'm being fulfilled every hour, and so it fits his personality perfectly. And that's kind of the stuff I'm talking about with education, where they don't steer you in that. Like, oh, Jim, you're good at math? Like, yeah, come be a doctor. Like, whoa, whoa. Like, does that fit your lifestyle? Does that fit the other things you like? Oh, you're good at English? You're going to be a great history teacher. Come on. Like, there's so many more factors into how to, not only what you enjoy, but chances are what you enjoy you're kind of good at, but there's a lot of positions under that umbrella that then you can succeed in and enjoy your life. Rather than, and again, just being good at math doesn't make you automatically go be an engineer, because what if you hate the tasks that an engineer has to do day to day? Like a similar thing, you're building a bridge, or an architect, like or maybe how many of your things get canceled and they never get built, or if you do build it, they might not even build it in your lifetime. You design this freaking awesome bridge and you spent 10 years to do it, and then they're building it as you croak. Like, you don't get to see your work come to fruition.
Yeah, completely.
Is it clearing up any on your side? There's literally nothing that we're doing here that should cause it to chop up, but I don't know.
I think it's cleared up a little bit. I'll just hear myself back, and then kind of you guys every other second, but it is seeming good now. Sorry for kind of interrupting those, just kind of the delay on that. But I massively agree with you there, Mike. One of the big things with architecture is kind of the, as you say, you kind of end up designing boxes. And that's a massive kind of myth, kind of bogeyman about the industry. But a beautiful thing with graphic design is there are no building regulations. I ended up going through at one point for a project the entire building regulations for the UK for stairs, and it's pretty dull.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like fun. So now you do design, graphic work, illustrations. Was that something as a child? Like, again, I went to a weird art school, and a lot of my friends were just really good at art. So, like, the normal kid would doodle, like I would doodle in class, and it would just be like smudge. And you look next door to, like, shout out my boy Justin and Will. You look, and they're doodling mid class, and you're like, that's fucking Picasso next to me. Like, it's just insane. They're just fucking about, just with a number 2 pencil, and you look over and they've shaded it, and the geometry's good, and the perspective good, like everything's fixed, and you're like, what the hell? You just did that in 5 minutes? Was that something you were into or naturally kind of good at? Because architecture is, I think, kind of drawn into at least in America, I feel like, drawn into kind of the contractor engineer side when you categorize things. But it is an art in many senses. Like, there is those regulations you talked about, but it is an art. But it's not as artsy or creative
as other things.
Yeah, as like an illustrator or a brand builder, which is the topic I want to get into next, which is something you've really impressed me with. As a kid and stuff, were you into it, or you just kind of just segued over from architecture?
Yeah, no, totally. I was kind of always more on the art side. I think it was that I was in a school that kind of really valued academics, and architecture is definitely the most sort of academic seeming design degree to do. Yeah, you can do it at Cambridge. Not that I got in, but that was kind of the vibe they were going for at my school. So it was just kind of, I think I got naturally ushered down that path before I kind of realized any other way. But yeah, I was always just doodling in class. My main thing would be drawing teachers, just in my notebook, whatever it was, just be drawing the teacher at the front of the class instead of listening to them. I think it all really started for me when one of my brother's friends came back from Japan. I must have been about 8, and I'd never really seen anime or manga before, but they brought back like a bunch of manga, and I just got to like borrow a couple of them, and I got obsessed with the art style of it. It's not even something that I really watch or consume now, and I haven't drawn in that style for probably over a decade, but just trying to imitate all the panels through those things and the artistry of it and the illustration was what completely got me hooked on the art and design route.
That's cool. That's cool. I've never watched anime in my life, but everyone loves it. I don't know what the connection is, but there's like this huge anime connection, not only to video gamers, like gaming and anime aren't related in my head at all. Besides, they're both animated, cartoonish, but in my head, like they're so different. And then also there's a huge connection between people who work out and anime. Jim and I have interviewed tons of lifters.
It is huge.
What is that? And like what, 20%? I don't want to make number. Like they say like, yeah, Dragon Ball Z really motivated me. Like what? Like that fucking dude.
It's true.
I don't get it, dude. I mean, I get it. They're jacked.
Who lift tend to have a massive obsession with anime, particularly the powerlifters. They all grew up watching these things, and they said it's just that is a thing for them. And like nationals and stuff, you see people literally deadlifting in a Naruto headband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. I mean, I'm older too, probably than like the mainstay of young raw powerlifting now, and so like my shit was Mutant Ninja Turtles. And they were jacked. You know, they have a yellow stomach with a 6-pack, and they had some delts and stuff. And I always thought that was cool, but not once did I ever think, when I started lifting weights in 8th grade, Ninja Turtles have never popped in my head mid-bicep curl. Not once. And even still, whatever, I don't even know, 15 years later, 17 years later, not once have I been like, I'm going to be Goku and fucking start curling out. But that's literally what, there's how many companies build shirts, shaker cups, whatever, all around those themes?
A lot.
Yeah, all of them.
Maybe more than necessary. Because it seems, I don't know, there's a point at which like every visual style becomes a cliche.
Yeah, that too.
And no matter how many people you're appealing to. So, I mean, like I personally, I would avoid a cliche even if it meant losing money because I'm dumb. I don't know.
No, I think you're like me. Like sometimes I call it my hipster syndrome, where I just want to do things just because other people don't.
Yeah.
Or the opposite, right? Yeah. Like I am kind of that guy. Even though I don't mean to. Yeah. If the artist is really good, I'll rock with them. But I like to find the rapper first. I like to tell my friends, and then as soon as it's on the radio, I'm throwing that CD out. I'm throwing it right in the trash.
That guy.
Yeah, nah, he's not that cool anymore. Or the clothing. But if it's real good, I'll still go. Like Lil Wayne's one of them. Like people kind of listen to Lil Wayne. I listen to all his mixtapes, and then the Carter 3 comes out, and it's all over the radio. And I still liked him just because he's actually good. But so many rappers like that, I'm like, I'm over him.
Well, and I think that you want to evoke a particular style without like straight out copying it.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too. With all of it, the anime, the art, which Munby and I and Jim have had many conversations off air about, like being inspired or having references, but not referring to something, or obviously not copying something.
Right.
Because then what's the creation in that? And then what's like the true fulfillment in it? Other than maybe your bank going up. But that's, trust me, I love money. But that's not what's, again, going back to like what really gets you going, what really keeps you working in the long term, passion wise. I don't think that many people have passion for money. Ego, they have necessity for money for sure. We all have necessity for money. We all have ego for money. But there's no way you're passionate about money unless maybe you're an accountant and you really like the idea of the business or economy, you know, like that's a different passion though, because you like the system of monies.
Yeah, and money's a dick measuring thing too, though.
And I got a small cock.
Completely.
But the part of the process that we went through with you in developing our stuff was you basically interviewed us and gave us questionnaires and things to go through, and took the ideas of things that we liked and things that resonated with us, and then you gave us like 3 different options that were not even, there was really not a ton of overlap among them.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks ago, we pulled those out and we were looking through them, and it's like, well, what we came up with isn't exactly any of this. it leans toward one thing, but it isn't it isn't a direct lift off of anything. And in the improv world, we call that A to C, where you take A and there's an intermediary step that nobody sees, and you get to C, and people C resonates A, but it isn't quote A, I guess.
Exactly.
Because as you do things physically, like, and Munby's helped us with all this, for those that are listening. He's helped us with the physical kind of shaping, branding of it, although he's not here, and helped us with the clothing branding, shaping of it. And although it's been a lot, because they are two separate entities in a lot of way of what they're two separate entities representing the same thing. Good Company is kind of the driver for all of it, but the aesthetic is different. The story's the same. And that's where I want to kind of dive down. And maybe the UK is different, but I can't think of like a degree or a school here that would kind of teach you about what the process is that you put us through, or continually help us, because it's like branding, I guess. And that's kind of like, not that that's a new term, but it's just a more relevant term in business nowadays, I feel like, because people's stories are so based on the individual with social media. They can tell more stories rather than it used to just be Coca-Cola. I think Disney's a great example, obviously, like Mickey Mouse has been Mickey Mouse, the voice, the look, and maybe the animation's gotten a little bit better, but like you could probably go interview them, and they probably have books and books about Mickey Mouse history, almost in a way, which is this huge story to this top brand that is Disney. Because the degree or the skills you need are obviously an eye. You need an eye for something. You need an eye for what looks good and what matches the tone. You need some kind of art or creation, whether you're drawing it yourself or you and I have collabed on most of our clothing, where I do something really ugly and send it to you, or I describe it really shittily to you, but I have this thing in my head, and I'm trying to get you to make this thing in my head. One of us have to have a lot of vision. The other one would be like the branding, marketing part of it, which is like, marketing, I guess we call it. And then the other one is like storytelling. And then you mix that all together, and I guess you call it branding, or I don't know what you call it, but how did you learn some of that, and what got you more interested in that? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems like you don't just like drawing, you don't just like doing that, you kind of like this ever-moving story branding deal.
Yeah, no, completely. I think that's very fair to say. I do try to consider myself a brand designer as opposed to just a graphic designer or somebody who builds brands. And I think the main difference in everything you're saying, because a lot of people have misconceptions about what a brand is. They think it might be a logo, a trademark, a slogan, a tagline, an advertising campaign. But at the end of the day, a brand is really just the consumer's gut feel about your business, product, or service. I think it's as simple as that. So that's why so much of our chat at the beginning of it that kind of informed the design was about what's your audience like, who are these people, and the wonder of working within content creators, as I almost exclusively do, is that it's quite easy for these people to actually interact and get to know their audience. And as a result of that, you can kind of build brands that actually resonate a bit more with them, and you get continuous feedback. Because if something you made was like absolutely awful, you're going to find out about that in your next YouTube video in the comments. But if it was really good, you see that as well. So it's just, there's a constant kind of feedback loop, which for bigger companies trying to sell beverages is a lot harder.
Yeah, almost maybe even impossible. And obviously they have analytics, but Coca-Cola comes out with a new flavor, every grocery store is kind of buying it regardless. And they'll get word back that it's kind of going off the shelves, but I guess you're right. There's more factors why it may or may not come off the shelf. And labeling and branding and price and all that plays a role, and it plays a role in our world as well. But it's so direct. Obviously the business model, business to business, direct to consumer, is part of cutting out that bridge. But you're 100% right. Beyond Instagram analytics, something that I've prided myself on as a creator is I've answered every single DM that's not fucking weird for 10 years. That's
where do you draw that line?
I have answered some weird ones too, just to like I got the first inquiry if I have an OnlyFans. That made me feel really good.
Oh,
that was within the last 2 weeks. They asked if I had one.
Get any requests for game worn underwear yet?
So I've had a couple. I think probably 5 over 10 years, which probably isn't that good of a ratio. It means I'm not that sexy. Offers for my clothing, underwears and socks. So I'm very low on the totem pole of sex
I've never
appeal.
experienced that at all. So you got that over me.
Yeah,
for sure.
But most of them are very nice. Most of them are very normal. And so point being is that beyond just analytics saying this many boys follow you, this many girls, this age, this maybe country, I've interacted with all of them. Jim and I have done tons of expos. We've met a lot of podcast listeners. Comments, whether people are trolling or whatever, you can get a vibe of your community. And so you really have a connection with what you're building, because the truth be told, without the audience, without you guys, without all of it, none of this is what it is.
Right.
There's falling on deaf ears. We can't build a podcast, and we can't build a gym, and we can't sell clothing if no one's listening to what we're throwing out there.
Right. This is true. So the bear is the thing that is resonating the most for us at this point.
You're telling me Kyle's mom and aunt came over last night and brought us some food, and we're just going nuts. They're like, this thing. Who came up with this thing? And they're just pointing to all the samples around, because my house is a goddamn tornado. I'll send you a picture later, Munby. My house is a tornado of shit. And they're pointing to all the bears. Excellent. And they're like, this is it. And we're like, yeah, we think it's pretty cool too.
Did you have any sense of this at the time? Like,
in terms of how people would respond to the bear?
Yeah.
Look, we think we struck gold. We think we struck gold, all right? That's what we're saying. And we're trying to give you the credit, all right? So soak it up and tell us if you saw it beforehand or not.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I mean, I was trying to tap into what I thought your audience would like. And often with creators, what the kind of, I think where it differs with big companies is that a lot of the creators' likes and wants and attributes kind of align quite similarly with their audience, which is why the kind of audience will then vibe with that creator in the first place. So just kind of trying to judge from your tone and from some of the research done of your audience what the bear would be. It just kind of like it came together. Yeah, it just kind of quite naturally, really. But yeah, I'm super happy with it. I think it looks nice and clean. I think it looks great on all the clothing and everything we do.
How do you do some of that with, like, whether you be your ego or your emotion or your brain or your gut feeling, whatever you want to call it, or the variations of them all? Because you've talked to me, and we can edit this out if I say something wrong, but you've worked in kind of like the bar industry and the hotel industry and regular business. You've worked in clothing. You've worked with YouTubers. You've worked with building something for a hotel company is way different than what we're building, right? It's all so different, and completely. Maybe you enjoy one more than the other, because I think, I don't want to put quote in your mouth either, but I think you've watched our podcast or YouTube or something. That's how we even met, I think. Through some kind of social media. Yeah. And so you obviously you like lifting. You're a lifter. Point being, how do you know when you draw something? I feel like some artists treat some things as work and some as like babies or plants. Like, how do you know, like, this is awesome, I really like this is going to do well, or I just drew this because Jim told me to draw this, and here it is, Jim, now give me my money. You know what I mean? Like, is there a thought process, or does that naturally happen, or do you know going into the project, like, I really love this, like, I guess a passion project, or an item, like Jim, I think we all kind of saw the bear, we're like, yeah, that's what we're going for, this is going to hit. Do you get a feeling like that, or do you just kind of draw, send it off, and kind of let it do its thing?
To an extent, certain projects become... I feel like I've become really, really emotionally connected to, really, really hyped for. This was definitely one of them. But generally speaking, I will try to detach myself from it, because I try and see myself more of a designer than an artist. And where I draw that line is that design often serves quite an explicit function, often a commercial function in what I do. So again, I'm always just trying to think about like the audience and the end user, and are they going to like this, how they respond to it. And sometimes literally when I'm designing something, I will write down the attributes of the consumer audience and just put on a post-it note on my PC. just so I can always look at that whilst I'm doing it, so that I don't kind of get my ego wrapped up in it and say, what do I think will look cool? Because that doesn't really matter if I'm creating something for you and your audience. But as you say, I generally try to work within industries that I have spent a lot of time within in terms of just consuming content. So my own likes are fairly aligned with that of others. So that definitely helps.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I would imagine working with us or me, we try to like feed ideas, bounce ideas. I'm blowing up your poor phone. You probably hate me all the time, just with shit, whether it's my own ideas or just shit that I think's cool that I've seen. Like, yo, check out this colorway of this graffiti I saw. Whereas working for like a hotel or whatever, or even a restaurant or whatever, and I consider myself a creative. I don't know, and maybe that's a bad title because everyone thinks I'm not creative, but I like to think I have some kind of art in my brain. I just don't know how to draw well, and you know what I mean? I have an imagination. We'll leave it there. Where some people I would assume you work with may not. Where I'm trying to kind of I don't know. I'm trying to think of a cool analogy, and I don't have one. I'm trying to like throw you an underhand pitch, and then you get to bash it out the park for us. Baseball reference, American. Sorry, Munby. That's all I had. I'm trying to cross the ball across the pitch, and you're trying to head it in with that beautiful head of hair. And where if you maybe work for a hotel, you're maybe dealing with more collared folks who are just kind of like
bean counters.
Yeah, we just need to sell this product. Give me a picture to sell this iced tea I have right here. Is that kind of true?
Exactly. I think definitely to an extent, which is why I've kind of tended to drop some more of the kind of more serious, as you say, kind of like collar wearing clients in favor for more content creators or just things really intrinsically linked with industries that I enjoy. The hotel job that I did, can't mention the name of the hotel, but it's a multinational, international hotel brand.
Yeah.
And per design brief, I'd open up, because this hotel brand had multiple other brands underneath it. I'd be sent several kind of brand guideline documents, which I send out to clients as well. But these ones for these huge sort of corporate entities are about 300 pages long. So you kind of have to read that whole thing to try and understand where their brand is at before you design anything or step foot. And again, there's not as much of a collaborative process, which would be the underhand pitch analogy, I guess, which is what I love so much about working with you guys and with other content creators, is that everybody, picking up a camera, whether you have somebody else do it for you now, but the fact that everybody kind of started their channels doing that and posting it, it's inherently creative.
Yeah.
So it's quite easy to collaborate with other creatives, I think.
I'm afraid that Zoom is going to cut us off here because the service that I'm actually paying for didn't work, and so the one I'm not paying for is going to cut me off we're at 30, almost 38, and it gives me 40 minutes. So, where can people find you if they would like to check out your work and potentially like hire you to do something?
Plug away, kid.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Munby _. That's MUNBY _. That'd be great. You can come hit me up there, give me some likes, all that stuff. That'd be nice.
And maybe they can meet you at 3rd Street Barbell in person one day. Shake your hand.
Absolutely. I'll be there. I'll get there.
Awesome.
You'll see me there.
That'd be fantastic.
Ladies and gentlemen, brand new podcast every single Wednesday. We appreciate you so much. Oh, we got to drop a secret.
Oh, yeah, quick.
What do I say?
I don't know.
Thursday.
Which is tomorrow.
The first line of many good company accessories is coming on board. So what you guys know is we're trying to build a community. We believe in doing things with like-minded individuals and people that we love and that we care about. I don't care what I'm doing. I care about who I'm doing it with. And so we're coming out with a line of accessories that you would do with your family, friends, and loved ones. And the very first one is our first Oktoberfest beer mug.
Or juice mug.
Or bear mug.
Or bear mug. Yes.
So check it out, 3sb.co. It's live for you podcast listeners and my Twitch fam before it comes out anywhere else. If you're on the email list, you'll get it. And then it goes to the rest of the world on Friday. So check it out, 3sb.co. Give us a rating and review. I appreciate you. 3rd Street Barbell on Instagram. I'm Silent Mike. Find me wherever.
I'm at the Jim McD on all the social medias. This show is 50% facts, where percent is a word and 50 is just numbers. And I'll update the website at some point because my hands are full right now.
Yeah, we're in a lot of chaos.
My hands are full. My plate's full. My bags are packed.
And I'm ready to go.
Ready to go.
What song is that? I'm leaving on a jet plane.
Leaving on a jet plane.
Don't know when I'll be back again.
On that note, we're out of here.